Hello, everybody. We're here today to talk with Ray Kroll, an amazing illustrator up in Alaska who does so much, just has an incredible body of work, a lot of it to do with marine life and dinosaurs. And we're going to talk to him today about an upcoming art book from Clover Press called Spawn Till You Die, the Fin Art of Ray Kroll. Now, right off the bat, Ray, let's talk about that title. I love that you are you're I'm a huge fan of puns, and it seems like you are too.
Yeah, they don't call it punishment for nothing. So I love puns, plays on wordplay, screw around with it all the time. Yeah. So some people say it's the lowest form of humor, but I don't know. I think it's kind of fun to twist the words here and there. But yeah, the fin art of Ray Troll because I'm into fish.
Yep. You're into fish. Now, tell me, how did this all start? Why are you into fish, and how did it become a career for you?
Well, I've been into fish for it would pop up in my artwork. I'm an artist for my entire life. I've been drawing pictures my entire life. I love making imagery, and I don't know. There's just something about fish that began to appeal to me. And so in 1983, 40 years ago, I moved to Alaska, and straight out of art school, and I came here to be a fishmonger. So I was monging fish. I just got my Master of Fine Arts degree, and I'd landed in this magical place called Alaska, and I was here to sell fish, and I didn't know the first damn thing about fish. I didn't know a humpy from a hole in the ground, a humpy salmon. And so here's my big sister had asked me to come up here to Ketchikan, and like I said, I didn't have much going on that summer, and so I came here and I got stuck, but I started looking at these fish, and I'm supposed to be selling these fish, and I'd already been intrigued by the form and what they're all about. But I'm the kind of guy that when I start getting interested in something, I just keep going with it. So I follow my passion, my interest. So I had to learn about salmon. I was selling salmon and halibut. But then I become fascinated with the natural history of things. And the deeper I went into fish, the more they taught me. It's kind of a cosmic thing, but learned all about how this amazing fish culture here on the West Coast. And when you first arrive in a place like Ketchikan, you don't really you're not aware of the fish culture. But as I dove deeper into it, literally, pun intended, dove deeper, they're beautiful. There's endless varieties of them. There's over 25,000 species of fish on the planet today. But then when you go even deeper than that, you realize, wait a minute, this fish worship journey that I've been on, you've realized at one point too, as I learned more about it, is that in the bigger sense, we are fish, Curtis. So we are descended from fish. And if you're related to something, you come from something, you are still part of that. So if you were born a McCoy, you're always, your generations later, you're still a McCoy or a Hatfield, but anyways, we are fish. So I began to get deeper into the topic of fish, began to draw and paint them. Like I said, I was just drawn to them for some kind of weird reason, but also just their sheer beauty. But I soon began to get an audience for my fish art. And I was trained as a graphic designer, actually in more as a fine artist, but my undergraduate degree was in printmaking. So, and I'd also worked in t-shirt shops, and I started doing these things, these fish shirts. And that's where I soon gained a real audience. And it was really kind of that feedback loop that happens with an audience. You seek those approval moments, you have an exhibit and people respond to it. And I started doing a lot of art about fish, and but it was really the t-shirts that took off for me, and it was kind of based on the fascination with fish. But as I've gone into this too and gained an audience, I began to be able to explore other weirder and darker, strange areas of the natural history world, and kind of return to some of my paleo roots. The first thing I drew as a kid was dinosaurs. And, so I got to get back to, drawing dinosaurs. So my t-shirts basically are what began to kind of afford me this lifestyle of following my curiosity. So I owe a lot. Really owe my career to fish.
So how did the t-shirts gain in popularity? Was it something that just started locally in Alaska and then expanded, or
Yeah,
what did you do?
yeah, yeah. The t-shirts. I came here to sell fish. So I began to draw and paint fish. And that was 1983. So like in 1984, I began to have exhibits. But it was really the t-shirts that I was printing in my up in my studio area in an old cannery building. And the first time it happened, there was a seafood festival here in Ketchikan, kind of a small little seafood festival. And I printed up, I knew how to print the shirts, ordered up a bunch of blank t-shirts, and I printed on these t-shirts, and I had just sort of a whimsical little phrase that said, "Let's spawn" on it. And I printed every shirt had like 20 fish on it. So I just did salmon covering the whole shirt, front and back, one squeegee pole at a time. And it just said, "Let's spawn" on the front. Did another shirt that said halibut, Alaska just for the halibut, just for the hell of it. And did another shirt called Rockfish, and printed up about 300 shirts, had them at the festival, and boom, sold 300 shirts in a weekend.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, what happened there? So I had some leftover shirts, and I learned a magical thing, that you could do retail, and then I learned about wholesale. So I took the leftover shirts to a local fish store and said, "Do you want to buy these?" And I just marked up the price a little bit, didn't make the retail, but I'd never learned that in art school, things about wholesale, retail, and how it all works, how capitalism works. So I sold the remainder to a local fish store, and they sold right through. And so I started, and I realized what I really want to be able to do is draw and paint. I don't want to be the guy always printing the shirts. I knew how to print them, but I knew I had to separate that out and get someone else to print them. And then I learned the other secret thing that they don't teach you in art school is a thing called royalties.
Yeah, right.
Where you fill up someone else's garage and they send you money. So, but it was, I had to work out all the deal with that. But what I enjoy is doing the art, and that's what I'm really best at, and also talking about the art once I calm down.
Okay, so let me see here. You have your art showcased in a variety of different places, including the Smithsonian. You can find your artwork there. And what have been some of the highlights of your career in seeing your art in different places?
When I figured out how to basically make a living off of doing my art, and had created this t-shirt monster, but the monster, I happily fed the monster because it was great, because this t-shirt empire kind of began to expand, and we started selling throughout Alaska and then down into Canada and into the Northwest. And my t-shirt printer at the time was getting them really out there in the world. And at one point we had our t-shirts in all 50 states, and I think maybe not all Canadian provinces. So we spread like a virus. And then I went along with that ride, and then things, you working out the business dealings, we ended up switching printers and still kept that t-shirt industry kind of going, and I'm still doing it. So I gained a following that way, but that began to give me the freedom to pursue my artistic interests and go deeper into the natural history world. Science really inspires a lot of what I do. Began to hang out with PhDs in ichthyology, so if I wanted to geek out on what a ratfish was all about, or what a rockfish was, or what halibut are, I followed my interest in ratfish, which are this weird, here's a ratfish there for you. This is my band, and we're the Ratfish Wranglers. So I began to reach out to scientists and learn that you could talk, befriend a PhD, and you don't need to know all the language. But anyways, that started leading to exhibits in natural history museums. So I hurl myself into these projects and I paint all over the walls. And so I've had museum exhibits, a crazy amount of museum exhibits. It's pretty wonderful, really. But you kind of got to hustle that a little bit. But so I've had exhibits that have been at the Smithsonian, an Amazon exhibit that was at the Smithsonian. I have some artwork in the Ocean Hall at the Smithsonian. I had a 10,000 square foot show. It was almost 10,000 square feet in 1999 at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. I've had 3 exhibits at the Burke Museum in Seattle, 3 exhibits at the Seattle Aquarium. I've had a big exhibit at the California Academy of Sciences. I had an exhibit at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. So a lot of those. So I began to combine the art along with the fossils. And there was kind of a crucial point in my career when I was talking to a friend for some advice when I had a show called Planet Ocean, Dancing to the Fossil Record, and that had opened at the Burke Museum of Natural History in 1993. I've done all this artwork for a book called Planet Ocean. It was the book that was called Planet Ocean. And I had all this artwork from that. And I approached a friend saying, what do I do with this? I've got all this artwork. And I've been trained to be a gallery artist. And meanwhile, the t-shirts go on. But so I wanted to have an exhibit in a gallery, but I didn't know how to take all this kind of obscure prehistoric stuff and things about evolution. What do I do with it? And this friend of mine said, why don't you approach a natural history museum? And that's where it belongs. Why don't you go into a natural history museum and see if they'll take the show? So that's what I did. I approached the Burke Museum, but also when I started doing these natural history museums, I was doing fine art in the museums.
Right.
So artists have to play well with committees, which is a challenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just these crazy ass things that I would come up with. But as I got a little bit more credibility out there, I was able to pull off some of these things that were riskier. So, for instance, at that show in Denver in 1999, by then these shows were happening. I was getting a reputation. I approached they wanted to have my exhibit there, and I talked to them. I started pitching this idea. What if we had because I am a pun guy, what if we had a Volvo, an actual Volvo, a Volvo station wagon, and we pulled it into the museum. We had it in the museum exhibit along with all the fossils, but let's have Charles Darwin driving that Volvo.
Okay.
And let's call it the E-Volvo. Are you okay with that? And sitting beside Charles Darwin will be a fish, a lobe-finned fish. This is the only lobe-finned fish alive in the world today. Well, actually, no, lungfish are lobe fins too, but this is a coelacanth. But let's have sitting beside old Charlie Darwin, I called him Chucky D, will be a fish. And that'll be the fish that we are most closely related to. And at the time, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out now. I'm going deeper into the science. Reading the audience, seeing if you were still with me.
Yeah.
But we're descended from lobe-finned fish. So I wanted to have that fish sitting next to Charlie Darwin, Chucky D, fill the back with fossils. In fact, I wanted to actually fill the whole Volvo with water and have lungfish in there, but that was too expensive to do. But we called it the Volvo. The exhibits committee said okay, but it's only after my pal Kirk Johnson went in and said, listen to the troll. He knows what he's doing. People will love this. And they did. And so the Evolvo was in there, was an art car. They sculpted Charles Darwin, took an old mannequin and made it look like Charles Darwin, had the lobe-fin fish sitting beside him. And we had a trilobite hood ornament, and we had ammonites on the wheels, and we painted all over it. Your mama was a lobe-fin fish. I had music playing. We had a disco ball, a dance floor, and all this in a natural history museum.
Amazing.
That was some funky ass weird shit, man. So I tried to get an exhibit in Vancouver where you are. Worked some connections there. There's a science center there.
Yes, that's right.
And came in and pitched it to them, an exhibit on a buzzsaw shark, actually. So yeah, anyways, Curtis, I'm all over the place. I guess though one of my biggest humble bragging moments would be that I have a species of ratfish named for me. So that will forever have to bear my name, the poor thing. The species that's named for me is called Hydrolagus trolli. Hydrolagus means water rabbit, and trolli, and it's actually called Troll's pointy nose blue chimera. So that's a species that will forever have my name. And then I also have a genus of extinct herring named for me. Round-bellied herring, I should say, Trollichthys. And that's a herring from the Eocene of Italy. So
that's just amazing. That's incredible. Now, I also love the humorous side of things. So you like, obviously, you've already told us the story about Evolvo. That's great. But I love some of the art you have. Like, you did some movie parody posters, like Return of the Sockeye.
Return of the Sockeye and The Empire Strikes Bass. Those are probably my two most popular T-shirts right now. That's because the Star Wars generation, i.e., your generation, is out there buying stuff. You know what's kind of funny about the Return of the Sockeye is that I did that one actually in the 90s. When did the Jedi come out? Do you know? Are you a Star Wars geek?
83, I think. Somewhere
around 1983. Yeah, so I did that shirt like in 1990-ish, and it sold for a while. It was in the line. And then the sales just tapered off, and we took it out of the line. So it just didn't happen, you know, and so people didn't vote with their pocketbooks. But then I looked at it again about 10 years later, and then I did the digital coloring on it myself because I always thought it kind of looked a little off. And then we printed it on a black shirt, so it was used to be in a white T-shirt, and we brought it back maybe 2000. I don't know when we brought it back exactly, but maybe 2005 or something like that. And boom, shot to the top of the charts. Right. And it's been there ever since. And then I always had this other idea that I had Darth Vader with a bass, and even though it doesn't make any sense, The Empire Strikes Bass, it just it's a stretch, but you know, Empire kicks ass. I don't know. Anyways, so there's Darth. He's fishing. So for bass.
Yep. What's your preferred medium?
Well, typically what I do is pen and ink, and old school pen and ink, and pencil on paper. I pencil it out, then I ink it, then I scan it, then I do digital coloring in Photoshop these days, but I also collaborate. I basically hire a digital colorist. There's a young woman that I've been working with for a while, Grace Freeman, who does just incredible colorization work for me, digital coloring, Photoshop, the layers and all that. She's incredible colorist. So actually, it's really increased my output a lot. So I do the pencil, the pen and ink, and scan it, hand it off to Grace. But also then if I go through periods, I burn out on that, and I go back to things like color pencil or like basically oil crayons and watercolor crayons on paper. I like to do a lot of drawing on dark papers with like Prismacolor pencils and or Neocolor stuff. And that's not my art behind me there, by the way.
Oh, okay.
One of my old professors, but I think you can see the influence there.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes. She even painted some ratfish in there for me, but yeah.
Wow. Okay, two more things. Let's talk about your band a little bit. You do music also, so you're not just one side of the arts. You have your one foot or one fin in another side.
One fin. I do. These are called fingers,
Fingers, yeah.
because these are your pectoral fins, my friend.
There you
These
go.
are
Yes.
modified pectoral fins, and I'm sitting on my pelvic fins. But that's one of the things that I do. So my art has become kind of educational, but I'm sliding it. We throw the science in there for free, is what I like to say. And we do that also with my band. And I've been in a band. It's always been kind of one of my mantras that everybody should be in a band. Curtis, are you in a band?
I have been at some point in my life, in my 20s. Yep.
Well, I'm almost 70 and I'm still in a band. I guess I would call my band kind of an indie rock, not really abrasive. Well, we do a couple kind of metal tunes, but educational, but you're not really aware of it, whimsical. But also, like when I do a t-shirt image like Spondy Die is one of my most iconic images, and that ended up being the cover of the book and the title of the book, because it's been around a lot. But when I did Spondy Die, I wrote a song also called Spondy Die. So I'm into these phrases, wordplay. So fish worship, is it wrong, is one of my more popular images in the t-shirt line,
Yep.
which is also kind of a surrealistic, nonsensical saying. But if you're into fish, you understand the shirt. And that's Scratchboard, by the way, Scratchboard on Scratchboard. Anyways, so that's also the title of one of the songs. So the fish worship, is it wrong? But I've been collaborating with another guy in the band we write tunes together, Russell Wodehouse, and he and I have written many songs together, or he'll write one and then I'll write one back. And then Shauna Lee is our singer. She makes us sound good, and Shauna's been writing a few tunes too. So I've been playing music with him for over 30 years. And recently decided I gave away my Stratocaster, gave it to my son who's in a band, and decided to kind of go for more of the acoustic sound, stand-up bass. And Chaz Gist is our bass player. My son Patrick Troll plays drums. And then we have Brian Curtis on guitar right now. So all those guys, always like to name check the band. I do think everybody should be in a band regardless of talent or ambition. All you need are three chords and the truth, whatever, as they say.
Yeah.
And so we have fun doing it. So it's slightly punk, slightly folky, slightly jazzy, slightly metal, but it's all kind of paleo-ichthyological educational rock.
Amazing. That's incredible. So let's talk about this art book that's coming out from Clover Press. We're launching a Kickstarter for it. And
Yes.
How did you get connected with Clover Press in the first place?
I started seeing some of the Clover Press books and was really impressed with them. And I loved the graphic style of them. And I just liked what the press was all about. There's another artist, Pete Von Schulle, who has a monster book. And Pete knew about my work. I've never actually met him, but we have a scientist friend in common because he's into monsters. I love monsters. He sent me an email out of the blue saying, hey, I've got a book and you really ought to check it out. He wanted to do an exhibit on the monster book. He's still, pitching that out there. So he contacted me, and I love the book, and it led me to, Ricardo Delgado is another artist that is with Clover Press, and I have just been blown away by Ricardo's work. And then all those classic comics that you were talking about. So I like the sensibility, and I like the emphasis on visual style, the graphic novels. And so I approached Clover Press a couple of years ago on Pete's recommendation, and kind of clicked. Went in there. Robbie Robbins is the designer on this, and he's a total fish head as well.
Yeah.
And so we geeked out on fish, and so I basically sent him a hard drive of just about everything I've done. So Robbie has the fun job of sorting through thousands of my images. So
have you done an art book like this before?
Kind of, sort of. I did one that was called Something Fishy This Way Comes, which was done with Sasquatch Press out of Seattle about 12 years ago. And that did very well. But basically, it was a smaller book, and it was kind of just the funny stuff, kind of. But this one is more comprehensive. And so it goes, I do obscure arty art. So high art, middlebrow art, lowbrow art, dumb art, I don't know, whatever kind of label you want to put on it. Surrealistic art, whimsical, dumb, clever, it's all there. So good luck to Robbie in making sense of all of that. But this will have some more. I've done some major paintings, in my life that take me a year to do. Big mural projects, public art projects, 20-foot canvases or 120-foot long building. And so those types of bigger pieces are in the book, but also some of the more whimsical, goofier stuff. The whole gamut. The hook, line, and the sinker.
It's going to be an oversized book. It's going to be a very large format, hardcover, beautiful, like nice, thick, sturdy pages. So that I think over 200 pages. It's going to be a great overview of your whole career. Like you said, the serious stuff, the funny stuff. You've got great, huge pieces, some smaller. Like it's just going to be really good. I've seen some of the interior design already, and I think that people who are fans of you and like this kind of stuff are really going to appreciate this book. Absolutely.
Did you see my stuff before any of this, Curtis?
You know what? I didn't know you, but as I was going through these, like you said, you sent a hard drive to Robbie. So I went through a whole ton of this stuff. I'm like, I recognize that. I recognize that. It's like, never knew who the artist was, but I'm sure it's like because I've seen it on T-shirts.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, really, and that's interesting. I'm just curious about that because I have been kind of part of the culture here along the Northwest coast. You're down the coast from me here, and I'm just in the background. But and maybe people don't associate my name with the imagery, but my imagery has been out there, part of the culture. So
definitely the one that we're using as the cover of the book, the Spawn Till You Die. That image is so distinct with the skull and everything, and it's like definitely seen it.
I've got a little slideshow where I get to humble brag about all this places I've seen it, So it's in the movie Superbad. I've got a picture of Daniel Radcliffe wearing it on Broadway. Motley Crue. I've got pictures of it with people in the White House. So I've got pictures from Uganda, from a Ugandan action film, and there's a guy wearing Spawn Till You Die in that.
Amazing.
Yeah, no. So it's like, wow, it's been out there in the culture. But yeah, so hopefully maybe putting a name to the images that you may have seen already,
Definitely. And I saw a video of a snowboarder who got trapped under a snowbank or something, and another snowboarder was videoing and saw his snowboard sticking up, and that's how he knew that the guy was trapped underneath. And that snowboard was bright, and it had your artwork on it.
There was actually another skier that came rocketing down right behind him, and he notices, and he had the GoPro on his helmet.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Flash of red go by. So he was taping everything as he's doing this run, so he's videoing it, and he sees that red, and you see him go, what was that? So it's like a big red sockeye salmon sticking out of the snow. So he veers over, sees that it's actually a snowboard, goes back, sees it's a snowboard, and the guy is attached to the snowboard, and he's buried alive, and he starts digging him out. And that's really a case where if it wasn't for that red sockeye salmon poking out of the snow, he may not have lived, man. So that's actually a case where art can save lives. Art can enrich your life, and art may actually save your life. So it might also get you in trouble too. My T-shirts have got people into trouble. I've been banned from some schools, because I give out a lot of bad advice. Drink like a fish, spawn till you die,
Right. Well, Ray, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with all of us on YouTube about this book, about your life, about your artwork. I'm super excited to see this actual thing in come to life in reality. So, yeah,
Well,
thanks again,
tell me
Ray,
about it.
for
Well, it's been great being here with you, Curtis. And I mean, if you can't wait, I mean, imagine I wake up every morning. Where is it? Is the book going to happen? It's happening. Oh man! So
I
I'm
can
really
only
stoked.
imagine.
I want to see it. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you online if they want to see more of your stuff?
Well, if you Google my name, you'll find my website. My website is trollart.com. And if you Google Ray Troll, you'll find me. And yeah, we have a little web store and all that kind of good stuff. And check it out. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.